Well, my call to order is Social Comment and Behavior Committee. Meeting at 6:35 p.m. in the boardroom of Oklahoma High School. Please call the roll.
Ms. Alexander, Dr. Applewood.
Here.
Mr. Grandhorse.
Here.
Wilson, I'm gonna get your name right one of these days, but Mr. Caraballo.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Codlin.
Present.
Mr. Davis. Mr. Diggs.
Here.
Ms. Emerson. Ms. Grimes. Here. Ms. Janney. Ms. Jones. Ms. Lamb. Dr. Livingston.
Here.
Ms. McQueen. Mr. Narang.
Here.
Ms. Newman.
Here.
Ms. Parker.
Here.
Ms. Scriber. Ms. Stevens is on her way. And Ms. Walkers.
Here.
Okay, thank you. First, public comments. Do we have anyone signed up for public comments?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll move on to approval of minutes. I move to approve the January 17th, 2024 CCB committee meeting minutes as presented. Are there any corrections or adjustments that need to be made? Hearing none, do I have a second?
No second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We just have it. Thank you all for coming out today. Really helpful. Thank you to do that. We actually have a really interesting topic for tonight that Jonathan and I have been looking forward to tonight for the whole year. It's a topic that's really Jonathan's going to lead our conversation. We're going to talk about peer-to-peer mentoring. And I think it's a topic, something that I think there are many different possible forms that could improve the lives of our kids and affect the culture of the school. But I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan to give us some background, and then we're going to go to our typical exercise that we do with post-it notes, and then we'll end with sharing insights.
Great. Thanks, Tim. So happy that we have forum tonight. Thanks for being here. This is really exciting. So by show of hands, how many are familiar with the term peer mentoring or cross-age mentoring? Most in the room anyway. Okay. I just going to take a couple minutes to go over just broad strokes what it's all about. Peer-to-peer mentoring is the fastest growing type of mentoring in the mentoring world. Currently, it's big brothers, big sisters. It accounts for over 25% of all matches are peer-to-peer youth-based mentoring programs now, which is huge. It wasn't like that even 5 years ago. It was a lot less. So this has been dramatically growing in popularity for a variety of reasons. The positive outcomes associated with peer-to-peer mentoring, it looks at both sets of participants, both the mentor and the mentee. So you're looking at both the leadership capacities gained from the mentor and all of the positive outcomes from the mentee, getting initiated into a community, building trust, and building a sense of belonging. The list goes on and on, but it's seen as a double impact kind of a thing for a variety of reasons, which has a lot of different appeal. Also, fewer resources are needed for recruiting your mentors. You're looking at what you already have, in this case, in the school. There's also the appeal of the connective tissue to one of the topics we've already gone over in some depth in this setting, which is looking at the broader community framework, how we can get better communication with middle schools, and in this case, middle schools. So looking at what sort of structure and process can be applied to communicating with the right people in that setting to inform how we match in the high school setting. There is no prescriptive way to do this. It's very depending on the needs and the context and the setting. But it is common for in high school setting for incoming ninth graders to be paired with an older student, usually a junior. Sometimes there's also a case to be made, which we're gonna get into this, some of the nuances of this questions today, for actually having more than one person matched with a mentee coming in and having a team sort of approach to peer mentoring. That is effective in a variety of ways as well, but also addresses some of the security, safety concerns that might come up with that might even occur with the individual match. And so that's something that we can get into as well. Any questions on this before we really get into the nitty gritty of it? I wanna make sure we have a lot of time for discussion. We have several questions and a smaller group tonight, so we should be pretty robust. But I just want to make sure that everyone had that foundation, the basic foundation for what we're looking at. As Tim mentioned, it's something that we've talked quite a bit about already, and it's something that we are excited about. And I mean, all the topics that we're talking about here, pretty darn excited about, and it's been great. So this is just another one of them, but so eager to get into it. Yes, Linda.
Do we have thoughts on ages for this,
Ms.
or
Parker,
is,
your mic is listening. Thank you.
have we thought about, ages, or is that all? Okay. Is it, up for discussion in terms of the ages of the people, but that's not, right now, everybody needs to be eligible for what we're thinking, we're not saying.
Absolutely, there's not a prescriptive approach to it in any way. It's definitely dependent on the setting and the particular context. But that being said, typically the most common peer-to-peer mentoring program is, at least with the mentees, those that are coming into the setting, so those incoming ninth graders. The most common peer-to-peer singular match is with juniors. Doesn't mean that it has to be that way. It's fun to look at a variety of different approaches. So, any other questions before we dig into it?
Just in terms of process, I really like we did it last week where everyone was able to contribute on all the sheets as they felt sort of called together. And I think some people focused on one and some people went around to all six, and I thought that worked out really well. I'm open. What do you think?
I totally agree. Yeah, thanks for flagging that. That sounds great. Everyone else feel good about that?
Somebody go through the questions?
Oh, sure. Okay. Everyone hear me okay without a mic? Good, okay. Okay, first question. No, can I hear you?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know it went over that far. Oh, great, okay. Without feedback. Okay, so, question one. Using the 5 C's, so the 5 C's typically is a framework that informs peer-to-peer mentoring: character, competence, confidence, connection, and caring. So what are some ways we can instill the developmental approach to establishing, it can instill this developmental approach to establishing a peer mentoring program? Another question: are there opportunities for formalized structured peer influence separate from mentoring programs that OPRF should consider? So liberating. I didn't know you could hear me. What might be the biggest challenges of peer-to-peer mentoring programs? What topics should be included in peer mentoring training? What is the population of mentees we intend to serve? What are the logistical challenges posed to successful implementation of peer mentoring? And what are some of the potential risks? And lastly, what existing OPRF mentoring programs could be expanded, and what are the biggest barriers to expansion? So without further ado, why don't go to the one that most sounds appealing to you at the onset, and feel free to drift around.
We're gonna take 15 to 20 minutes to do this, and then we'll report that. So,
The original study. So peer-to-peer mentoring also becomes. No, it can be. It can be facilitated.
Thank you.
That's a whole separate.
If I was, I had somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, that usually, if I think about. The administrative level. That's probably the constant part.
15 minutes, 15 minutes.
Check it out as you guys are still following up.
That's great. It's really fun.
That costs.
I think the biggest barrier is
More expensive, of course.
They have to want.
You don't count for
Reading your.
all my kids that I asked. All my kids that I
All
asked.
about establishing.
Sorry, I got to wait this process.
It's a structured process that's gonna be.
Yeah.
Like that.
It can take on.
Emotional.
More.
I was trying
to. I'm
like,
Tuber is the world that's. There's that.
That was too much.
Adapting to its environment. So it's used as a tool to process.
I'm just trying to get. Because I'm getting different models of separate. And like if we have big systems, other kind of, that's in terms of, so other than just move to them.
That's exactly, that's exactly.
So it's fresh.
Yes, you'd be looking at freshmen coming in. Yeah, and I was telling your group that there's no prescriptive
That's all.
age sort of. But the most difficult is
Separate,
looking at usually.
elementary programs.
There's like. Those that have experience. Studies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the approach, there's some science examples, give you one day we have on science. We actually have to. Recently, assigning one and for the data. Not only for us. Because things that you like, let me tell you not for, I don't, Aaron doesn't say it's somebody on match. But it also says, 9 times out of 10, you're on the double address. Yeah, so you're not getting study of all the security stuff.
Yeah.
Even though it's
Yes.
visible, historically, that is one of the things to consider is like when you're doing your screening, statistically, are those all things and systems. Look right. So. So that. Good, okay.
I have the picture, I'm sorry, I sent that one, I have the picture. I'm picking up. That's how I'm. That's one of the last. Separate from the.
Next to the one.
That blue one? No, it's a green.
So that blue one is not yours? I
No,
thought
the blue
maybe
one was-
someone left that in my office and I thought it was you. Okay,
not me.
thank you for letting me know.
I have somebody,
I didn't steal it though. Somebody left the water bottle.
Yes, yes, yes. So, yeah, like, let's see, okay. What do we already have? This is the little future, whatever. Your canvas. Yeah, Brianna, how you doing?
Well.
Good, good.
Well, that's not, but I want to.
Have you?
That's what they.
Yeah, oh, okay, well, hold that down. Are you familiar with, sure, that's what it's also called. Okay, so you got it. So that's what we're going over tonight. We put up, several different questions around the, here that was, so.
But that's all.
So it's to understand how instead of read it written and go to all of the so she can say that didn't have to.
No, it's what kind of situation the rule? So that's.
I mean, it's a little weird take to it, but. Myself here. I mean. Thank you. Thank you.
You're on school?
I mean, do the same.
Yeah, so it's roughly instead of a 3 month.
You're at the fall, longer.
Yeah, that's all. Then I'll do it. You know where to go to that. What's the?
No, I think just don't feel with it. Learn to use things.
One first step, but it's like I did, like, instead of tutor incentives, they can go with exclusively teacher. Fold it to the. Might be thought of a field, class, teacher you don't know.
Yeah.
No, I'm done.
Okay, I was like,
No,
oh, this is. Yes.
And this is Mark, it's a great color.
Like what?
How are you doing?
Well.
No, I need to do that. Which is why I thought we could go to. So I don't really think that actually. Remember. Yes, that's why did the US. Yeah, 27. Did you think so?
Oh, I like that. Let's say it's English. You know that.
Does she contact? What does that mean? She.
I want you to check.
She's on my phone. Together, so.
What time do you start?
Has it been 15 minutes already? Okay. Am I handing it over to Linda now or am I continuing?
No, let's just do our circle time, and really what I'd love for us to do is just take time to share insights that we maybe have taken this exercise. Totally free form, okay? Go on, folks.
Bring the mic. You want one of these chairs? You okay?
I'll get a also, so, I'll tell you my first exposure to, peer-to-peer mentoring programs, so my kids elementary school. It was a school where every incoming child was paired with a child. And so, fourth graders. And they had 3 years together in that peer-to-peer relationship, and it was, incredibly meaningful for the little kids to have, a big kid looking after them. And it was even more meaningful, I think, for the big kids because they had somebody to look out for. It made them feel mature. So that was sort of my first glimpse of how something like this could work. Obviously, first graders and fourth graders are a whole other thing than what we're talking about in the parent. I understand. And the scale is really different too. And as I was going around, both the scale and I think just the sheer time constraints that we have here, we're not able to get to so many of the things that we want to do with our kids. So thinking about adding just one more thing is a challenge, right? So obviously there would be a whole lot to work through. Which then leads me to the sort of the thought that we do have existing mentoring programs. They're successful. They're really kids that are in them. But we still don't touch as many kids as they could. So maybe that's the place to start. Or formalizing mentoring relationships and clubs and activities and sports. Maybe that's the other place to start. So that's.
I think when kids are exposed to good mentoring programs, they learn how to then, by proxy, become mentors themselves. That's been my experience with mentorship. Students who participate in formalized mentoring services tend to themselves become good mentors. So if students have people or someone that they can talk to and they know that it's available and it's clearly explained to them what mentoring is. I think that's why we probably don't have a lot of kids that attend the mentoring programs that we have is because they really don't know or understand the purpose of being mentored. And so I think that would be a good place to start.
So peer-to-peer mentoring, I think back to my undergrad experience where coming in, I had a mentor and then became a mentor. And I think Dr. Applewhite's point that there is value in it for somebody to quote unquote show you the ropes and steer you in the right direction, like what not to get involved in, what not to do, and how to like navigate systems and processes. within an organization. So I think there is a great benefit to it.
Yeah, absolutely, and myself being new to OPRF or very observed, really great mentoring structures like the launch program, some are formal, some are informal. It happens in a lot of spaces, but given my background, my mind always goes to our most at-risk students. And the most at-risk students, the ones who need mentoring, are not usually involved in those programs. It's very difficult to even get them interested in something like mentoring. It's not something that sounds attractive to them. And it's also difficult to find somebody to pair them up with who can maybe say that they share common ground with the person that they're trying to say you're on the right path. So that's really where my focus is just thinking about pathways. Because one of the comments I put on there just about at-risk students is that they can stay actually. So because they were involved in an extracurricular, an easy way to build a mentoring pathway in there. So we're looking at kids who are not connected, or let's say disconnected, not involved, not wanting to get involved, and then in situations like that, we'll almost have to trick them into the mentoring. So it cannot be called mentoring, it cannot be any type of formal program, although those do have some impact as well. But for peer-to-peer especially, it's very difficult. You have to try to find, in my experience, some way to attract them to some kind of activity during the school day and get them connected with somebody, just kind of fall out.
So when I was a student here, I may have messed up the name, but it was a mentor program, but it really felt like a spirit pep welcome for the freshmen. And so we came here and, when freshmen had their first day here, we would line up inside and, just cheer them on and kind of encourage them and welcome them to the school. And that was just kind of it. Never saw anybody again. I may have seen someone in the hallway that was like, oh, you had the bonbons. I was like, yeah. And then that was like the end of the conversation. And the second year I applied, I was named a super mentor. And I was like, whoa. And I thought it meant that I had more responsibility to go through the hallways and to guide someone if they didn't know where their classroom was, or to show them, where the lunchroom was for the first years versus the upperclassmen, which was separated like that at the time. And that was not our responsibility. It really was like, just make sure that they feel welcome, and that was it. And so looking back on my experience, while I do feel like I had an impactful, I was a friendly and welcoming face that they were introduced to. If I wasn't wearing my shirt or my super mentor lanyard, they would have never known that I was a part of a program that was geared to welcome them or to guiding them through these big hallways. Oh, is it dead? Oh, there we go, sorry. So that great program, didn't really know what the purpose was, except for really in person. But I will say, in my undergraduate experience, I had a mentor, and her role was just kind of being my big sister. So she didn't necessarily keep me out of trouble, but she was like, if you get in trouble, just call me. And I think that was a really nice experience to have a kind of having that mentor that wasn't trying to bully me into having the experience that they had, or like trying to mold me into what they wish that their high school experience was. But it's being like, if you need someone, I'm here, or if something ever happens, here's a resource. That was a little bit less than an adult, so it felt less scary, but also relatable because they have lived through a similar experience. So I hope that the mentorship program here evolves into being something like that, where it's, again, maybe it's a wording, but it's like, this is your big sister, your big brother, your big whomever, while you navigate, so much so that they do feel inclined to then become that for somebody else. So yeah, those are just my experiences.
I think I thought a lot about, over there, like, the Cs, which I'm not totally familiar with the 5 Cs, but providing structure and curriculum to the mentoring so that there's some like targeted goals that kids can learn and take away from. And then also, how do you, like, I think the ones that are most successful are organically built within the day. So kids don't have to do an extra go here, or, maybe it grows into that, but it starts so that they can, it's within the day and they can build that relationship, and then if it wants to expand outside of that, that's also possible, but I just think things that are really built within the day end up being the most successful.
So many thoughts. Okay. Gabrielle brings up some good points about the nuances of peer mentoring, because you have to make a decision of whether or not you want this to be a teaching and learning space, or whether it's to build a friendship, which can be completely different. If they're also going to be charged with like helping you build skills, then there's a certain level of training that has to happen in order for that to go. To what David said, I also agree that there are groups that tend to be underrepresented, who kind of need to be taken into the fold in the beginning. So one of the things I put on the sheets over here was first serve incoming freshmen coming in transitional classes who could tend to be left behind, or we think they have so many supports, they may not need that, but actually need someone to teach them the ins and outs of being in this building. And then maybe the support classes at other grade levels. Just because that people tend to focus a little less on those students building relationships that tend to connect them to the building. I also put on the sheet where it talked about topics, just a couple of questions. There are students in this building and as teenagers who just question, why am I here? And I mean, as a broader question of like, why am I in high school? Why am I in school? Why am I here on this earth? I think it was my favorite song by, it was Here, the name of that song. And it's just like she's at these parties with her friends and she's just like, why are we here? Like, this is no way engaging me or making me feel any special way about here because everybody else told me to be here. And so it's just a matter of having some mentoring to help you build that self-confidence and that understanding of your what you give to this world and to this space that you occupy. I also put it there, like determining your purpose, right? Like teenagers are able to think about like my purpose here, but we spend a lot of time trying things that sometimes get us in trouble and not because no one's like helping us to actually think about like, what's your purpose here? What's your greater purpose? Like, why are you here and what are you supposed to do as you're here? I added resilience and grit because it made me think about things that I don't know that everybody is still teaching kids in the outside world. The how, if you hit a bump, to get up, brush yourself off and to keep going versus like cry out in pain and stay in that place and just like, who's gonna save me? And it's like, you can save yourself, stand up, like just teaching some things like that, which I think older students could help us with. In lower resourced schools, we depended on students to help us do this because there were no adults who were paid to be around to do it. So you had nothing but the kids. So you trusted that these students, if you gave them some knowledge, would go out and help get the students to be a certain way and to do a certain thing. And I think that's important. So students are a huge resource that I sometimes think gets overlooked. And sometimes they have the words to make things happen for each other. So I think it's a wonderful idea. And they find time to do these things anyway, like they're just here and figuring things out. And once you hook them, I think they're in for the long haul. So I definitely think it's something that's valuable.
So you all gave me things to think about. I'm wishing a little pen of paper to keep track of the things I was thinking about. But so I think the peer-to-peer mentoring could really benefit students and give them that sense of belonging. And my mind does go to the underrepresented students. I teach some classes like that. And I know that we do have the Launch Leadership Program, and I'm not completely, up on, who gets in, but I feel like there are students who could be the best mentors for those students in those classes would not be the ones that would typically be selected in the leadership program. So I think, those students would need to have the older students they could see themselves in each other, right? They were there when, you know, they came to the high school. So I think that would be really critical, to think about, you know, trying to select students, encourage students to enter into to see themselves as a mentor. They may not see themselves as mentors. They may think that, well, I'm not the type of person that would be selected for this, but to really reach out to them and to have them, you know, be invited and be welcomed into fulfilling that role. And over here I wrote about that we did have like the launch programs in the study halls, but not all students have study halls, given their schedule, but I know that like an extended math, I forgot about that there is the launch program that does go in there, which helps. My daughter happened to have that, and that had a really huge impact on her. There were other thoughts I had. It sounds such a great program to try to do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that's being said. I don't want to repeat anything. I think it has the ability to do a lot of really good. I don't know how it can function in a building this size, with as many kids as we have. That's, yeah.
So I'm gonna be the spokesperson for the launch program, as somebody who's run a study hall every year since it started. I was one of the two original study hall teachers, except this year, I don't have a lunch class, and I've lost something in pain. It's sad because it's really like all the logistical challenges, like time, bell system. Here's the 3 days a week you're gonna meet with your mentors. Now, it's not one-to-one. And as somebody who's been involved several times, to do the interview process of potential launch leaders, we are, and I don't wanna say we, like I'm in the program, but I have volunteered to come be involved in it. We are very, intentional about finding a variety of students. And in fact, I think the email they send every year to ask for us to nominate students, like one of the things is like the kid who might have been a hassle to work with as a freshman, but you see them grow over time. And that can be a kid who relates. I think getting related students, you know, not every kid in launch is excited about a mentor program. But we just, after, you know, 20 classes, 25 times the mentors are coming in, like they're kind of persuaded to get involved in it, and it works really well. Final thing I was gonna say, blank now, so stop. No, I'll stop.
So I agree with a lot of everything that's been said. My thought is, as we talked about, I think making, somehow it gets stigmatized sometimes, especially for the underrepresented kids, the term mentorship, and maybe the more universal it is, that we're extending this to all freshmen, maybe doesn't single them out as you got a problem, so we're gonna give you a mentor. I don't know, what would be a good perception? But yeah, the whole thing of selecting kids that would be appropriate to be matched, is critical. So I'm glad to hear that there's intentionality in who's going for that. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge school, but it can be done, it's great.
So I think that the primary. So I should first disclose that in a past life, I was a director at a mentoring partnership, and so mentoring in general is just a domain of knowledge that I got close to and saw a lot of the things that were barriers to success with mentoring programs and traditional mentoring relationships. You know, and this is still unfortunately a real serious problem and epidemic in the mentoring community is you know, the data says to have a meaningful mentor-mentee relationship with actual outcomes. You know, you need to look at least a year, preferably 2, but you know, and more. And the lion's share of mentoring programs don't hit that year. And the data says that there's actually a really devastating effect to those that are to most of the mentees that in these programs, because it's one more person that's let them down, that's failed them, that's not following through. The thing that I love about a peer mentoring program and the possibilities and the context that the inherent, context that it occurs in, you have greater control, you exert greater influence over the boundaries, the dosage of the activities, and where those activities, will take place. Several successful peer mentoring programs actually go beyond the bookends of the school day and to have structured weekend activities on school grounds. But it really is what you make of it, and I think that's what I like so much about it, is it's a canvas that you can sort of design however you want to design it according to your community and your needs. And because of the double impact structure, and because it takes place primarily within this other existing macro structure of our school, it creates this inherent bulwark against a lot of the other safety, security issues, and risk management issues that are present in other mentor-mentee relationships. Not to say that it's devoid of them, but that's I think a huge part of the appeal for why peer mentoring has become so popular and why it does account for more than 25% of brother and sister matches now. So I think I just think there's a tremendous potential. It's really what you put into it, how it's designed, and how it's maintained, and how it develops, and how we care for it, and really tend to the feedback mechanics that are informing what we're learning, and I just think it's super exciting.
So, really interesting to hear different perspectives, and I came in late, which I apologize for, so I may have missed this part, but just in terms of the way I think about programming, and what I've heard, just what people have said, is my question is, so what need is this program filling for the school? And I was not clear on that. And that's just something.
For that one, I mean, we have students that don't understand how to function within the school system. But I'm thinking of like our students that most need, who don't get to currently do like launch study and stuff like that, because they have a double book for English, a double book for math, and they have the history, so they're taken out of that. But you have students that don't know how to function in school. You have students that don't understand how to advocate for themselves, who don't understand how to reach out for help, who find it intimidating to talk to an adult. And these mentors, and seeing a student that is, around their age, but is older, senior, telling them like, hey, encouraging them, hey, go talk to your teacher. You should ask them about this, you should ask them about that, you should do this. I know I said like the sheer size of the school, like I don't see how a mentor program can function properly in a school like this. But like I'm a proponent of it. Having someone around your age to guide you and show you how to do things in a proper way is a great thing, can help our students that need the most help, but are currently not getting the most help because of academic catching up.
So is that the schools, I mean, that's a shared understanding? So that's a shared understanding amongst, I'm pushing. Okay, yeah. Is that the shared understanding or agreement in the school about what the purpose is then? What the need is that a mentoring program would fill? Or that's just your sense of where the need comes from?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak from my perspective, but I mean, in hearing what other people have said, I think it's kind of like an understanding that, yeah, we need to reach those kids that need the most help, and mentorship can do that. But mentorship also benefits those kids that do actually get into launch study calls. They have, you know, older role models to look at and see like, oh, this is, you know, something I can attain, this is something I can do. Obviously, not everyone, you know, buys into it. Others would rather just have like a regular study launch if they just want to do work. But yeah.
I would just add, I think that, we still have kids in the school that that are not connected to anything, not connected to a person, not connected to an activity, not connected to a teacher, not connected to a peer. And this is, I mean, I think of this as a way to make sure that every single student at least has some connection to someone else in the hallways. That's not, but I think that the mentoring programs that we already have in place, on a smaller scale, they don't include everyone. They do so much more than that. So much. So they're solving, you know, multiple problems.
And if I can quickly add, sorry, and I'm always like pushing for the most needy kids, but I think the students with straight A's involved in clubs still greatly benefit and want this to, they have a separate set of issues, but, you know, even like just in the lunch program, they train the mentors on how to like help a student make their 4-year plan. So I've witnessed these conversations for years where the students like, the mentor's like, what do you want to do later in life? I want to do something in medical. All right, then let's load up on science classes and we'll do this, and we'll make sure you take this AP class. This is a wonderful class and really good teacher and stuff like that. So it's like those students like aren't as necessarily needy, but I think they benefit tremendously and seek out this and makes their high school experience even better. And then the other thing I'd add that I forgot to say is socially, this is like the biggest thing I've heard from freshman parents in my lunch program is, I'm so happy my son's on a text thread. And it's literally like, tomorrow's pajama day. Make sure you guys wear your pajamas and we're gonna take a picture as a group, or at the football game, we'll be sitting at the 30-yard line in the 10th row, come up and sit with us. And just kind of forcing kids to get involved, but not like, you're doing this because you have problems, you're doing this because you're part of our family now. And I think that has been the most wonderful thing I've seen is socially, making kids feel like a part of a community here.
Especially considering how massive this school is and intimidating it is for a freshman to come into. They need that family aspect. They need to feel like they're a part of the community, especially if they don't have any classes with their friends, they don't have anyone they know to guide them. Like that launch program is so great for them. And I think it's a travesty that it doesn't expand if we don't consider like transfer students for that kind of thing. Because I've had seniors transfer into my class and have to take like a freaking world history class and they are lost. They do not know what's going on. It takes them a really long time to adjust because this is the building its size for high school is pretty abnormal, I would say.
And I just said that it really is what you make of it, and you really do have this expansive blank canvas to work with. And when you're thinking about peer-to-peer mentoring, it's not just the activities, the structured activities in the school. You know, several peer mentoring programs also have an e-mentoring component. Incorporate multimodal journaling and other things. And then I also just wanted to stress come back to the creating a stronger connective tissue to the middle school actors and informing in lieu of sharing private information on that individual's file. A lot of there's some very sophisticated algorithms in a lot of these mentee match software apps now that are they're amazing in how they so you can codify some things basically in using this index of variables that you could put into this algorithm and create these great matches, and that, so that in lieu of sharing private information, you can, give these the students that need a particular type of help additional agency by leveraging the information in that sort of way, which is kind of cool. If that makes sense. Right.
Anyone else want to share anything?
Yes, I think it's just expounding on what everyone else is saying, there's a lot of benefits to mentoring. When you think about it being an adult and how mentoring benefits adults, like teachers, new teachers getting mentors, it just makes sense for kids who are coming into the building, whether they're transfer or new, to have someone to kind of show them the ropes, make connections, and it develops and builds a system of support for some students who would not seek this out otherwise. Like, you're gonna have kids that come to high school that are not gonna be the most outgoing, that's not gonna be the most athletic, that may not be the most academic, but having a mentor gives at least this student one system of support. Like, I still benefit from working with and talking to my mentor. My son, every opportunity and job that he's had outside of school came from mentoring and then being in a mentorship program, and then his friends that were in there mentoring each other. So that's the system of support that he would not have otherwise had. And I think there are a lot of kids here who are not benefiting from that right now and are somewhat lost. And so whether they're at risk or not, they just may not have that system of support. And there are things that go on at home sometimes they're not gonna share with other people, and they just need some consistency and support, someone they can go to on a regular basis that they can say, I know this is the person, this is my person.
Thank you, everyone. This has been a really interesting conversation. I want to be respectful of time, so let's close. Linda and David, are we still planning BEP being the topic for next time?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything to discuss or know about that, or just know that must.
Just that it'll be a different exercise, so we won't be necessarily doing the papers, but we will be having a conversation of, sorry, that may not be the same type of conversation we've been having with the papers, but we will be talking about some of the aspects of the behavior education plan, and then also a refresher of the behavior education plan for those who may not be as familiar with it.
Excellent, thank you. Let's adjourn. I, Tim Grantors, move to adjourn the CCB meeting at 7:33. Can I have a second?
Second.
And all in favor